If you've been following the last couple videos on the channel, I've been milling some white pine logs into some 4x6 and 6x6 material so that I can use it as joists to rebuild a loft in the barn. At this point, I have actually milled 4 logs into joists, and I've got 3 6x6s, 11 4x6s, 2 4x4s, and a 2x8, all 16 feet long. So here is this lumber pile. We've got our 6x6s over on this side. Then we got a bunch of 4x6s. We have the 2x8 and then a couple of 4x4s over here. You can see the wane on the 4x4 there, and there's even some wanes on some of these 4x6s. I didn't mind that some of them are a little waney because the application here is just going to be supporting a loft. So the fact that I'm missing a corner like that, I can either, well, first of all, these are going to get cut down a little, and then I can hide that by putting it up to the top so the flooring will be coming right down on it. It'll barely be visible from below. So today I'm going to start cutting these to length and getting them into position so that I can open up this floor space again. And I figure I'll share a little bit about the economics of having purchased that chainsaw mill and going through the laborious process of milling this lumber myself versus purchasing it from a local supplier. Here, you want to help? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll stabilize it. Go ahead. Almost. There it is. You see that? Look. You can see my 4 cuts, and then that little square in the middle is what was left. How about that? Well, we finished cutting it off. All right, now let's measure it, 14 foot 2, and we'll do the other end. All right, 14 foot 2. We're gonna mark it off square, so I'm gonna take the square. Do that, and then while I'm on this side, I'm actually gonna do these other sides. So I'm gonna put a line here, based on this edge, and then I'm gonna put a line down this side. And then what we have to do is we roll it up like this. And if I've done my lines well, and if this timber is square, when I put the square on, it will line up from one side to the other. Take a look. Does the line match up over here?
Yeah.
It matches up over here. And does it match up over here?
Yep.
It does. So we have a square timber, and we've marked it for cutting off. There's one side.
Another side. 3 sides. And then after the 4th, we'll have to use the handsaw. There's a little square right in the middle.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's extremely close.
How'd we do?
Good.
All right.
Left a little square in the middle.
If you guys want a nice block to play with, there you go. So what are the economics of having done this chainsaw milling? Well, given that I got 3 6x6x16s, 11 4x6x16s, a couple 4x4s, and a 2x8, if you add up all the board footage from that, it's 560 board feet. In case anyone's not familiar with the board foot unit, it's equivalent to an inch thick by 12 inches wide by 12 inches long. So essentially, it's 144 cubic inches of lumber. Now for me to go to our big local custom milling lumber yard, they charge $1.35 per board foot for the 4x4s, the 6x6s, and the 4x6s. Now the 2x stock, they charge $1.25 per board foot. I don't really know why it's a little bit cheaper for 2x, except that they can probably squeeze a little bit more out of the log. And if you're asking for the larger stock lumber, they end up with that material as waste. Now, I didn't make as pretty a lumber as they would. It's not all as perfectly square, and I tolerated more wanes, like you can see behind me, where I get some bark from the round part of the tree in the actual lumber. In this application, I didn't care. If I was purchasing this lumber, I wouldn't have any of those defects. Using those lumber rates, that 560 board feet would cost $753.87. Even if we take out the 4x4s and the 2x8, which are not really high quality, we're still looking at $670 worth of lumber. That chainsaw mill with the ripping chain and shipping costs $255. So if we're taking that $753, we take away the cost of the chainsaw mill and the ripping chain, that's still $498 that I saved by having the chainsaw mill over purchasing this lumber from that particular supplier. So if you break that out over the fact that it took me about 10 hours to mill these 4 logs, including the maintenance on the chainsaw, sharpening the chain, all of that, it works out to just under $50 on an hourly basis to cover my time, to cover the wear and tear on the saw, and to cover the gas, which, by the way, to do all of this, I only used just over a gallon of gas through my chainsaw. Now, if you took away the 4x4s and the 2x8 and said, those weren't needed, I didn't need to buy them, then all of a sudden the price goes down to $670, and even after subtracting the cost of the mill and the ripping chain, still at $414, which again, $41 an hour for my time and for the wear and tear on the chainsaw. Now the ripping chain is consumable, it's replaceable, but that mill will last. And so if you were to divide that over all of the lumber that you can make, that cost gets a bit better. All of a sudden, getting outside, doing something that is a little bit of hard work, milling up some lumber, very productive, saved me quite a bit of money. And so if you kind of look at it as a good way to get outside, it's a nice thing to do. I will say though, much easier to just go and purchase the lumber. I will also add that those board foot prices may seem a little bit high. In fact, you could look at those numbers and say, gee, I could buy a 2x8 from the local home improvement store for less than that. And that's true, but when you're looking at, custom milled rough sawn material, sometimes there's actually a premium for that because that's not what everything is being made into on kind of a mass production basis. So overall, some good savings here. We've got all the joists cut and set up. The staircase situation is going to be a little bit weird. I need to still figure that out, think about that a little bit more. But otherwise, we're going to be ready to put some flooring down in here sooner than later, I think.